Hey everyone, this is Nick from Mecha Warehouse, and today we're back with weekly update number 78. Let's just jump right into it and kick off with Week in Review. That's where we talk about things that have been going on around here, things that are coming up, stuff like that. First off, let's talk about Kotobukiya. We actually got a bunch of Kotobukiya stuff in, interestingly enough, so I'll be talking about that during the restock section. But apparently they announced this week that they are experiencing longer delays than expected. I think a lot related to some of the lockdowns in China related to COVID. Apparently, a lot of their manufacturing and distribution is in China, and so they're expecting longer delays. So I just figured I'd pass that information along because people always get wondering about pre-orders and things like that and when they can expect them. And so they were already kind of moving slow and fairly delayed, and apparently a lot of those delays could get longer, at least for things that are due in the near future. Hopefully they get caught up pretty soon, but figured I'd pass that information along because it might be helpful to know. Number two, we put up a interview on the channel this week, an interview with Mike's Builds. We talked to Mike down at ODO back in February, so this is another one of those interviews. He had some excellent builds, took home some hardware down at the event, and it's I think a good interview and well worth the watch or listen, and yeah, definitely check that out. And then I guess finally the most more Mecha Warehouse specific thing is that we're in the middle right now of doing our ordering for Q3. Talk about this occasionally, but how we order our stuff from what was Bluefin, now Bandai Namco Toys and Collectibles America, BNTCA. From here on to be referred to as BNTCA because that's a mouthful. They basically give us an order form every quarter. That's everything they plan on producing for the next quarter, or that they're thinking about producing. Really, they take orders from everybody, figure out how much they're actually going to produce based on, and which ones they're going to produce based on what everybody asks for in quantities, and then tells everybody what they're going to get for confirmations. We're still waiting on confirmations for our Q2 order, which I'm very impatiently waiting for right now. And so we're working on that next quarter. And the main reason I bring it up is, one, we talking about this mean like I'm trying to convey that we get what we can. We order everything that we can. We want to get all the kits. We want to get them all in good numbers, and we're kind of limited by what they decide to produce. So whenever someone asks the question, "Hey, can you get or special order me X, Y, or Z?" Usually the answer is yes or no based on the whole idea that we were basically limited by what they decide to produce. The other reason I bring it up is just from a business and personal perspective. I feel like the weeks that I'm working on these kind of orders are probably some of the most stressful weeks for me, like out of the year for the business, especially now that we're trying to place massive orders. The order we placed for last quarter that we're waiting on confirmations was our largest order by a massive factor. It was a huge multiple of our previous orders, trying to avoid things like what happened with the big restock a few weeks ago, where we had things selling out in an hour or two that were popular items. Trying to get enough of those to have enough to keep them in stock for an extended period of time means that we're placing significantly larger orders to try to get a lot more of them in. And that requires a lot of estimation and guessing based on previous trends. Some of the estimation isn't too hard. When we have something in stock for 6 months, we kind of know what it might take to have it in stock for 6 months or a year. When we have only had something in stock for 15 minutes, it's kind of hard to guess how many you're going to need for 6 months or a year. And we still kind of have to make that guess, and trying to make that guess and be confident that we're not way overshooting or way undershooting is quite the challenge. So that's the main reason I bring that up. We're in the process of it. I think our order's due on Monday or something like that. So I'll probably be working a good amount through the end of the week, maybe even through the weekend, trying to figure out what those numbers are and get that order in. And yeah, good times, except not good times. It's definitely one of the harder things to do, especially at the scale that we're getting to, because the consequences of over or undershooting are a lot bigger than they were a year ago. All right, so that's it for week in review. Moving on to next weekly tips Nick's Tips. What are we calling this again? Nick's Tips. Okay. So moving on to Nick's Tips. This week I want to talk about cutting pieces from runners and the two-cut system, because I think this will be valuable for new builders and maybe some experienced builders that maybe don't know. So a lot of builders, there's several different ways you can cut parts from runners, right? You could go and cut flush right from the get-go. I don't really recommend it. It's the fastest way. It's the least number of cuts. If you're not painting the build, it's going to result in the most stress on the plastic. And even if you are going to paint, you can get a cleaner finish, an easier, better clean finish by going with two cuts. And what I mean by two cuts is we're going to take the nipper and we're going to cut the gate some distance away from the part. And I've seen some pictures floating around in Facebook groups in the last week or so where people were wondering where those cuts should be. And to me, the best place for that first cut is where the gate kind of starts from the runner itself. So the runner's the thick part, the gate is where it's kind of tapering down to connect to the part. We want to get where it's not super thick like the runner itself, but not necessarily super close to the part. And then we can take our next cut closer. And if you really want to get fancy, you might even take a second or third cut or an additional cut to try to minimize that stress on the plastic. Basically, when we make that cut, it puts pressure on the plastic. When the plastic deforms rather than cuts, that color kind of goes away and becomes white stress marks, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Cut twice, and then sand. I'm known for sanding. Maybe I'll have to talk about sanding next time. Let us know, though, down in the comments how you do your cuts. Do you do two cuts? Do you do three cuts? Do you do one cut? Do you just rip the parts off the runner with your teeth? Like, what's your method of removing parts from the runners? Okay, let's move on to pre-orders. So this week we've got, I don't know, I think just shy of about a dozen pre-orders, maybe 10 or 11 pre-orders I think we have up right now that we added. So first up from Plum, we got the Vic Viper version Gradius V, and this is from some game, I guess. Gradius? Okay, so it's from Gradius. So I guess it's the two-player color version. It's a cool-looking ship. I've obviously never played the game because I don't know anything about it, but it does look cool. If you did play the game, you might be into it, and if you just like cool space fighter jets, it might be something you want to. From Suyata, there's the Marvelous Museum MM03 Mechanical Chalco Soma Atlas. If I'm pronouncing that right. It's basically a giant horned beetle thing. It looks kind of cool. So that's all I got to say about that. Good Smile Motoroid Mazenkaiser SKL. So it's another Mazenkaiser design. If you're into super robot stuff, this might be up your alley. It looks pretty cool. Aoshima, we've got a pair of Pat Labor kits, Unit 2 and Unit 1. I don't know anything about the Aoshima Pat Labor kits other than that they're Pat Labor kits, but I think they look pretty cool. I'm not sure if you've built these before or any of the Aoshima stuff. It'd be kind of interesting to compare maybe to Bandai if you've built the Bandai ones. Hopefully Bandai does a reprint soon because those were kind of cool. Max Factory, the Plamax Iron Giant. This one, I don't know if this is from anything either, but it looks really, really cool.
It's definitely not from Iron Giant. It's not.
Yes, it is not that Iron Giant. Although they should make an Iron Giant kit of that Iron Giant. That would be pretty awesome. They do? That would be pretty awesome. So it's definitely not that Iron Giant. This one's a little more badass with a sword and shield. It looks very knight-like in its kind of styling with that stuff, which is pretty cool. We also have from Plum glasses accessories. So if you're into the whole robot girl thing, you can get them in, I think, clear or like a smoky gray color. They're basically just various types of glasses that you might put on a figure. And so that might be interesting if you want to add glasses to maybe a 30-Minute Sister or Frame Arms Girl or any of those kind of kits. We also, I think there's also from Plum a couple other ones. There's the ASS 1117A Vulcan Jake model. I think this is also from a game of some sort maybe. some other media, but it's a really cool bulky looking design. And then finally we got the Option Series '09 Blaze guns, which is basically looks like a sword gun kind of accessory pack that might be useful for some sort of customization. I think that's it for pre-orders this week. Let's move on to restocks. Now, as I said before, most of our restocks this week are essentially all Kotobukiya. We also got some Infini in as well, and God Hand. I don't think God Hand was anything new to us, so we topped off on nippers and sanding sponges and magnifying glasses and all that kind of stuff. So things to take a look at if you're into God Hand. We got some Infini stuff I'll show off, and then a lot of Kotobukiya. So let's get through the Kotobukiya, and I guess an Orange Cat Industries kit as well. So first up, we got, which one is this? Ava Test Type 01 with Spear of Cassius. So some Evangelion from Kotobukiya. If you ever built the Koto and the Bandai Ava stuff, I'd be interested to hear your opinion on the two. So I mentioned briefly there, Orange Cat Industries. We got this, it's the EXTGS Career Xer /Code. There's a lot of slashes in here, both physical and written out. So I'm not sure how to pronounce that. It looks to be a fairly large kit, almost like a smaller master grade size box, but very chibi-ish proportions. So if you're really into SDs but want a large SD, it's kind of might be right up your alley. And that's from Orange Cat Industries, which is another manufacturer. Back to Kotobukiya, we got a pair of frame arms kits. We've got the Gulswerg. So I don't know too much about that one. We also got the Extend Arms 08 for Kobold. So this is for the Kobold frame arms kit, which I think we have the Kobold in stock, or at least a version of the Kobold. And I believe this is just extra accessories, arms, feet, things like that probably change proportions or details on the Kobold, or it could probably be used to customize almost anything. We got from Metabot or Metarot, depending on which translation you like to use. This is the Tyrell Beetle. So we got that in this week. We got 2 Zoids kits in, adding to our Zoids collection. Got the Raven Raptor, so probably fairly similar to the Rev Raptor, as well as the Pile Bunker, which is, I believe, the weapon that comes with that kit. So if you like that lance kind of weapon and want to use it for something else, I think you can grab one without buying the actual Zoid kit itself. We got another one of these Notchin tanks. We got the green in a while back. I think we still have a few in stock, but now we have the gray as well. These are pretty cool, and I'm more and more tempted to snag one of those myself. We had two Hexagear kits from Kotobukiya. The first being the Voltrex Wrath. Oh, that's kind of cool. Looks almost Zoid-like. It's like a Hexagear Rev Raptor almost. So pretty cool looking kit there, as well as a option part, the fence plate option, or block base 07 fence plate option. Looks like it's essentially a way to make fancy chain link fences, grates, things like that. Some of the examples on the back of how they've been used are pretty cool. Everything from creating a fence around a platform to getting off wheels on a vehicle to some sort of cage fighting situation with the governators. So kind of interesting there. Let's see, a few more left. Tamo 2, we've had a couple of these Tamo 2s in stock. These are, I think, new colors for us. We got the, which one? Light green and light blue in stock this time. So we got those 2 in. And then we also got 3 kits from Muv-Love. We got the Shiranui Imperial Japanese Army, as well as, let me skip over that and get this one. The Shiranui Imperial Japanese Army full option set, which appears to basically be that same design at least. I think it might even be the same underlying kit, but with the additional options and weapon packs. Although it is slightly confusing because the smaller kit has a scale on it, and this one is supposedly non-scale. So I'm not sure if it is actually the same thing or just the same design. And then finally the Type 00R. So another Muv-Luv design. These are kind of interesting mechanical designs. A little bit different than the typical Gundam kind of design. So if you want something else to build, those might be worth checking into. And then I mentioned earlier about Infini. We got an Infini restock. Mostly stuff we've had before. You know, typical stuff like the sanding sticks that are a go-to for sanding for some people. We also got a few new items, including 4 different clear easy cutting mats. So I think we've had the orange ones before. This is a clear version of it. And it's basically a cutting mat with grooves pre-marked in it to make it easier to cut masking tape to various sizes and shapes. There's 4 different patterns or 4 different types, A, B, C, and D, that I believe have a different layout on each one, 4 different applications. And I think the clear might be useful because it's clear, right? You can kind of probably overlay it on things that you might want to try to mimic, I think is kind of the intent. The back shows it all in the orange. All right, and then finally, you got Infini paint racks. There's 2. These are paint racks that can hold basically either narrow or wide. I think that's how they, yeah, wide or narrow type. The narrow is kind of intended for holding paints more along the lines of like Vallejo, and then the wide are more intended for like Mr. Color or Tamiya style bottles. The packaging is basically the same for either one. I think we only got 2 different versions in this time. I think it's just a narrow or wide. If you need a paint rack, then we got paint racks. So that's it for restocks. Let's move on to Q&A. We got like 5 questions, I think, this time. So first one, plastic germs. Question: with the inflation throughout the country, should we expect any costs going up with Mecha Warehouse? For example, gas skyrocketing, will shipping go up? So I don't think we should expect any cost to go up immediately. Gas prices will affect shipping at some point if they continue to go up or stay sustained at a higher rate, I assume. We were actually looking at possibly revising shipping prices downwards a while ago. We're kind of thinking about not doing that now, just to absorb whatever those cost increases might be, so we don't have to pass along. We don't want to lower prices and then jack them back up 2 weeks later because of a price change. So we're going to hold on to that and try to absorb any shipping cost increases as long as we can. As far as inflation for like kits, like I don't expect Bandai to increase prices in the immediate future. Number one, because they seem to avoid doing blanket price increases. I think they made an increase earlier this year or late last year or something. That was the first, it was early last year. Time flies by so fast. But that was the only like official like across the board price increase that they had done in a very, very long time. So they don't tend to increase prices super often. So I don't expect them to do a blanket price increase unless they absolutely have to. And the other side of that is it sounds like the dollar is actually strong against the yen right now. So we might actually have a advantage in buying stuff exported from Japan for whatever that's worth. I'm not a currency expert by any means. So hopefully not. It might happen at some point. It's bound to happen eventually. Fun question for the Mecha Familia. What is your favorite joke to tell? I don't think I have a particular joke that I just tell all the time. At least I try not to be that guy that's got one joke that I tell to everybody all the time. I prefer to find puns in the moment based on what's going on, so I can't really do that on demand. Maybe somebody else has a lame joke they tell all the time.
Oh, my favorite joke to tell. There's the joke about the cannibals eating the clowns, and then asking if it tastes funny. But I like the version where it's the clowns eating the cannibals, and then one clown looks at the other and says, "I think I told this joke wrong."
I don't think I have a go-to joke.
Favorite joke to tell? I don't tell the same joke. I just make very, very bad puns whenever possible.
MJRL Hobby Stuff. Question for the minions. When Nick needs to discipline you, do you save up the discipline and collect in one big beating or take that beating right away? LOL. So we'll post answers to that depending on if I like the answers. Just kidding. Where am I?
Does Nick beat us? If he beats us, I don't remember.
Well, it's not really like discipline. It's more like a conversation, and I prefer to get those out of the way earlier so that problems don't build up later.
I think the way this would work out is Nick's not a terrible person, so I don't think he'd do the beatings all at once, but definitely a lot of beatings throughout the week. Yeah, that seems to be Nick's personality. Like, he'll beat you a little bit over the course of the week. Yeah, there we go.
MWG, got a couple questions for you and the MW crew. What is your favorite mobile armor from any of the series, and what faction would you want to make weapons and mobile suits for? So to answer the first part, for me, I think the Dendrobium is really cool, and I think that counts as a mobile armor. That's big, sleek, tons of weapons and resupply right on your for your Gundam. It's pretty awesome. As for which faction would you want to make weapons and mobile suits for, I feel like I would be playing both sides, like Anaheim Electronics. I'm an equal opportunity offender, and yeah.
I think the really fat Zaku from the 8th MS team, that's a mobile armor, I think. Yeah, I think that one.
Favorite mobile armor? Probably the Big Zam, just because it's giant.
Big Zam. Big Zam's a comedic one.
And then build weapons for, well, I'm pretty sure people want to build weapons for both of them. I think that's what Anaheim was doing in the beginning. So play both parties.
Xeon.
Probably going to break out of UC. It's going to probably be Zaft, because I really like the redesign for the Zaku's in Seed.
Bo Odell, OMG, you're killing me, Nick. You called me Bob. I think from now, henceforth, you have been dubbed Bob. I'm going to call you Bob from now on. Fun question for the whole team, Xeon or Fetty? And I think to follow up from my original question, I think, like, I'll play both sides. Like, they're both good at times. They're both bad at times. They're both mostly bad, I think. But yeah, I have a hard time choosing because I can see both sides at times.
Xeon. One question answers the other.
Xeon or Fetty, that really depends on the series. The shows do so good pitting them both against each other, making one look like a good guy, one look like a bad guy. So it really depends on the angle you're looking at.
That depends on how you like to take your war crimes.
Okay, and then Jim and Boo, Nick stickers coming back. Nick plushie when? The world needs a Nick plushie based on the sticker. I don't know that I could ever put myself in plushie form. That feels a little conceited or something. I don't know. I feel like I can make my ego big if I need to, and I don't know if I can make it that big. That's kind of crazy. But the Nick stickers, I could see maybe we do another print of those sometime and start sticking them in orders in the future. Time will tell. And I think that's it for questions. And I forgot to mention earlier, if you have a question you want answered, you can post your question down in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer next time. Thank you for watching. Later.